studio. I am Kat, for those of you who haven't joined me before, and it's lovely to have everyone on the mat today for this little mini tutorial on downward facing dog. So downward facing dog is probably one of those kind of classic yoga positions that if you've never done yoga before, you've had a good chance of hearing about or might even know what it looks like. So we're just going to have a little look at how we can get into it. So pointers on how to get the best stretch for the back body, and then you know where to go to practice it in your own time. Okay, so it is all about stretching through the back line of the body. So that means we get to stretch the calves, the hamstrings, and stretch the back and the spine as well. So we're going to start by just coming onto our hands and knees. Press into the hands, spreading the fingers out and into the palms. Now, if you have a lot of problems with the wrists, you can do it on your fists, and you're just going to rest on the bony bit between the knuckle and the first joint in the fingers, and that is also an option. We want to tuck our toes under, and then breathe out. Squeeze our belly button up into our spine and up into the back of the rib cage to give us a little bit of core strength to help keep us lifted. When you're ready, take a big breath in. And then as you breathe out, just lift the hips up. And then you want to push them back behind you. Now you might then find you've got a bend in the knees, that's fine. We're going to give the body a chance to get used to this position. So just pedal the feet. This is something you quite often hear yoga teachers talking about. Pedaling the feet up and down, which just means you bend one knee and then you bend the other, lifting the heels up off the floor. And then take the knees all the way back down. Sit back for a moment, shake the hands out. Maybe draw some little circles with the wrists. And then we're going to come back into that tabletop position again. So if you need to, tap the feet out, shake the legs out. So we press into all the pads of the fingers and into the palm. We need a strong foundation through the hands. As we breathe out, we're going to lift the hips up. So take a big breath in. Breathe out, lift the hips. Lift them as high as you can up to the ceiling, and then push them to the wall back behind you. So again, you might want to take that little pedal out, but maybe you feel you can then just start to let the heels drop to the floor. So if you find your legs are feeling tight, we can take as much of a bend in the knees as we want and have the heels lifted up from the floor as much as we want. Keep pressing into the hands, and then to help make our arms and our shoulders strong, push the shoulder blades around the outside of the rib cage. Good. Take the knees all the way down. Sit back a minute, shake the wrists out. So the shoulder blades are those bony bits at the top of the shoulders. And when we say we want to push them around the rib cage, that is exactly that. We are rounding them to the side, and that helps to make the top and the arms nice and strong. We're not pushing them into the middle of the spine, they round, and then that helps us press all the way down into the hands. We're going to try that again. So from our tabletop position, take a big breath in. As you breathe out, tuck the toes under. Lift the hips up. So we want to push out of the hands, lengthen up through the arms, push the shoulder blades away from each other, and then keep pushing back through the hips. If our hips are forwards, when our head is forwards, then our heels are going to find it harder to come down. If we push backwards, it's easier to get the heels towards the floor. Our head is in between the arms, and we're actually looking back through the knees behind us. And then when we're ready, we can come all the way down and shake the wrists out again. So we've got those key points. Weight in the hands, pushing outwards. As we push out of the hands and lift up, that's going to help pull those shoulder blades round. So those shoulder blades wrap around the ribs, and our head is dropping towards the floor. So that actually gives us a nice stretch through the spine. So the weight of the head is pulling you downwards, and that actually gives us a reverse of gravity. So if we spend all our time sitting and standing in this position, gravity is always pulling us down, and we're sinking down through the vertebrae into that tailbone. As soon as we turn upside down, gravity works the other way and it decompresses the spine. So it's a nice thing to do to help the spine out. Then our hips are coming all the way up to the ceiling and then pushing back behind us. So if we just do it kneeling, we're here, we've got our toes tucked under, there's no weight in the feet. But as soon as we push our hips back, I mean, I know obviously we're coming back to sit, but as soon as we move backwards, the weight sinks back into those legs, and that's going to help us stretch out through the back and get the heels down. It's not essential to have your heels on the floor. It is not essential to have your legs straight. That is something that we can work towards, and sometimes because of the way our ankles are formed or just because of the lengths in the body, it may never happen. But we can keep on working towards it. Maybe, maybe there will always be just a little bit of space, or you don't feel like you get your feet grounded into the floor properly. So let's try that one more time from our tabletop position. Tuck the toes under, take a big breath in. As you breathe out, lift the hips up and push them back. So we're pushing back through the hands. Head is heavy, stretching the spine. We push our shoulder blades around the rib cage. The hips are lifting up and back, and that's going to help us lengthen out through the knees and as best we can, and drop the heels in towards the floor. Good. Lower the knees down. Sit back a moment. Just give the wrists a little shake out. Good. So that's how to get into a basic down dog from our tabletop position. Now, quite often we move into a down dog in yoga from laying on the floor. So quite often, as if you're working through a sun salutation, we have to lift the chest up and then we push back. And that takes us sort of into a tabletop position. You come back through the knees and lift the hips up. Now then, there might be quite a lot of space. We want to find that triangle position, but actually we're more in a plank. So if we push back, we feel like we're too spread out on the floor. So if you take a little step in with the feet, that helps you find that triangle position. And it needs to only be a little step. So don't walk the feet up close to your hands just because you want to get, actually that gets quite hard because it pulls in through the back of the leg anyway. But it's not about taking a big step in or moving the hands in so that you can get your heels to the floor. It's just to help you find that triangle shape and feel like your hips are coming up. So if you want to have a go at coming up from the laying on the floor, we're going to have a go at coming up from laying on the floor. Breathe in, take the chest up a little bit, and then push back through onto the knees. We're going to breathe out, lift the hips up, and then just take that little scoot in so we feel like we're making a triangle shape. We can press out of the hands, push the shoulder blades around, lift the hips up, press the hips back behind us. And then lower all the way back down towards the floor. Fantastic. So we've already said it's dropping our head down to the floor. So that stretches out the spine. And then because we're trying to straighten through the knees and get our heels down, we get a stretch through the calf and the hamstring. So we get a really lovely stretch through the back of the body. It enables us to fire up the core. We work on our strength in our arms and our shoulders. So we can get quite a lot of work into the body just from that one position. So we're going to try one more time, and this time choose the position that you would like to come from. Is it the laying on the floor or is it tabletop? I'm going to come from laying on the mat. because that's possibly the hardest one to come up from. So you've got your hands just in under your shoulders. Start to take the chest up as you breathe in, push back onto the knees, and then as you breathe out, lift the hips up. Remember, we take that little step in just so that we can make that triangle straight shape instead of being stretched out all the way across the mat. Let the head drop. Grow up and out of the arms as you push the shoulder blades away from each other so that we send the hips up, 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 and then we're pushing the hips back behind. Good. Take the knees all the way down. Sit your hips back, and this time come to child's pose. Just let the head drop forwards. Round yourself up, give the wrists a little circle, and come back the other way. Shake it out. So if you are looking for one big stretch that you can get into the whole of the back of the body, try doing downward facing dog. If you can't come down towards the floor, then you can do this by holding onto a wall or a work surface, and we do exactly the same thing. Press into the wall, hold onto your table, your work surface, feet are underneath you, and you're just going to push the hips back behind you. Press the shoulder blades around the back. And then you can come all the way back up to standing. So if you're out somewhere and you need to, maybe you've been for a run or something like that, a long walk, and you feel like you'd like to stretch your back and the hamstrings and the calves, you could use a wall, you could use a picnic table, you could even use your side of your car, your van. Stand arm distance away so that you can just lean or press into whatever surface you've got. And then as you breathe out, we're going to send the hips backwards, and we get the same stretch. We just don't get the upside down bit here. It's a nice one to be able to do as well is this way. If for any reason you're unable to get up and down from the floor, you can attack the pose from standing up. And then bend the knees, push yourself all the way back up again. So that's our alternate version if you find you can't come down to the floor to a mat or whatever space you've got for any reason. I hope that explains our downward facing dog, and you can understand why it's a good stretch to perhaps try and throw into a stretching routine or use every day to help you get a little bit more release through the back of the body. If you've got any comments or questions, let me know below, and subscribe to the channel so you know when our classes come out. All right, take care now. Bye.